Hello, greetings. So, this is going to be a video about, well, basically, it's BDSM 101 for Goreans. Basically, I see so many misconceptions when I discuss with Goreans online, so I thought I just make this video as a little general public service. Also, it saves me a lot of time because instead of me having to explain this again and again and again ad nauseum, I can say, see here, here's some links. Watch this video and watch me babble on for even, no problem, no, far more than 5 minutes. I babble a lot. Then watch me babble for far too long and learn something. So yes, let's get started. BDSM is an umbrella term. So for those of you who believe that basically come out with saying that oh no, BDSM is this. Everybody who is into BDSM do this or they don't do that. No, because it's an umbrella term. BDSM covers everything from people who likes to tie their boyfriend up with fluffy handcuffs and play spankabout to those that are in total power exchange relationships where the slave are not allowed to enter the home and basically get a slave registration number tattooed on their ass. So yes, and anything in between. There are people that are not submissive or dominant in BDSM who are just into pain play, for example. But nor is it that everybody who is into BDSM are into pain play, as some people claim. I don't know how many people I have seen that say, oh no, Gorean slaves, they're in it for the submission, while BDSM submissives, they just in it for pain. No. I know people who are in uh, dominant and submissive relationships that never do pain play. They're just not into it. It's not their cup of tea. It's still BDSM. And yeah, like I said, it's an umbrella term. So you cannot say this is what BDSM is. And basically, even the slavery aspects of gore fit into BDSM. Now, the Gorean lifestyle itself is not BDSM because it's so much more than the slavery aspect. But that aspect is. So, yeah, it would be like saying this is what a shop is. A shop carries cactus. That's what a shop is. It's a place where you buy cactuses. Yeah, there are shops that carry cactuses. There's also hardware stores and lingerie stores and bookstores and online stores and every other kind of store. So, yeah, this is a pet peeve of mine. Basically, no, not everybody in BDSM do this, not everybody in BDSM does that. It's a vast um, spectrum of things. Now, many people who are Gorean seems to sit on their high horses and say, I'm sublier than you. And basically, Gorean slavery is a total power exchange relationship, where the master has all the power and the slave has none. And but there are people within BDSM that does that too, and there's people that don't do it that way. You can't say, but it's always deeper with Goreans. No, you can't, because there's a lot of groups that have it where the slave has just as little rights, that has it just as sternly, and there are people that has it more, so the people that has less, and there are people who only do it once or twice a year, and that then you just only do a light spanking now and then. There's such a vast spectrum because it's an umbrella term. Look at it this way: pagan is an umbrella term. It catches everything from Wiccans to also true practitioners, everything within the sphere of nature based religions or non traditional uh, polytheistic religions. You cannot say, oh, pagans, those are Wiccans. No, because there's such an enormous spectrum. And the same with BDSM, it's an umbrella term. Have I said that enough? Excellent. Let's move on to the sub, slave, and bottom. Basically, these are terms that even within BDSM are not generally accepted as this is this, this is this, and this is this. However, a general tendency is that bottom is somebody who uh, basically wants to be at the receiving end. The person often has a submissive streak but doesn't need to have it. There are many matrices, for example, who are not submissive, they just like pain. A bottom basically are people that like to do it just in the bedroom because it's what turns them on, but where they have no BDSM elements in their lives otherwise. Basically, like for example in the Gore books, it talks about free men who like to command their slaves to spank them. Well, they're bottoms. That doesn't mean they're any less dominant, but they like to bottom now and then. A submissive generally is somebody who are deeply submissive and usually are in a power exchange relationship. But generally they don't consider themselves to be slaves. Generally they do retain some uh, control and power in their lives. Now how much and to which extent vary from relationship to relationship. Some people, for example, are just sexually submissive, so that in all sexual relations between them and their partner or partners, they are the submissive party. Others might have followed things like the taken in hand lifestyle, which is basically 1950s marriage with spanking. And there are people who where the dominant have enormous amounts of power and the submissive don't have very much power. There's a wide spectrum there, but generally they are not in total power exchange relationships. There are some sort of agreement or limits and so on and so forth put into it. For example, it could be that yes, dominant person is the one that is in charge. He or she is the one that makes the final decisions in the relationship. But the submissive definitely have the right to speak up, and the submissive also have right to set certain limits. For example, that the dominant might not take other submissives, and so on and so forth. It varies from relationship to relationship. Slaves generally are in a total power exchange relationship, or at least close to it. They consider themselves to be owned, to be property of whoever they are serving. Now here we are coming very close to what the Gorean uh, slavery concept is. So of course the direct dynamics and so on and so forth varies a lot from person to person. And yeah, so and within this topic of slaves, submissives, and bottoms, I want to say that it's not like it's a scale Submissives are better than bottoms and slaves are better than submissives. No, no. It is basically works like it's just personal preference. One isn't better than the other. You have to find a place on this scale that fits you. And it's not about who is the submissive person in the world. There's even people who have an extreme need to be slaves, for example, who can't be because they don't want to give over their entire life when they, for example, have children and other responsibilities that they cannot and will not put in the hands of others, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Now, when discussing this topic, just one moment. Honey, could you just let in the cat? My cat's at the door. And soon she will dig through with those little claws of hers. Anyway, what also very often comes up is the concept that within the Gorean lifestyle, it's common for a slave to call all free for master or mistress and also obey all free. However, this isn't that common within BDSM, and generally speaking, if you as a Gorean slave come up to a random BDSM dominant and call him master, he is going to be insulted. Because within BDSM, typically not always, because there are groups within BDSM who also have slavery as a station, not just a place in a relationship. But usually it is the dominance and submission is contained within that relationship and whoever are let into the relationship. But generally speaking, it's considered that, for example, master and mistress are titles that are to be earned. And it would be similar to you walking up to somebody else's husband and saying, "Hi, honey bum." Yeah. So generally that is a problem. And the same way, I know that a lot of BDSM submissives and slaves come to Gorean forums and message boards and try to learn about our lifestyle. And they are sort of sent away because they will not call people they don't know for master and mistress. And I feel that here we are doing ourselves a disservice because we really don't have that great a reputation among BDSMers. So having more people learn would be a good idea. And then you have to realize that these people are not following the same custom. And as such, for example, requiring them to say sir and madam should be enough. Anyway, like I said, this is something to be aware of. When a BDSM slave approaches Goreans and do not call him or her master or mistress, generally that does not mean disrespect, because usually to their eyes, just calling this random person master or mistress is a misrespect. So when somebody comes into your message board, and there are BDSMers and not Goreans, I think the most sensible thing to do is to say, very well, this is our customs, but you may refer to us as sir and madam instead of master and mistress. And the same thing when you ask, if you are a Gorean slave and you are on a BDSM forum, using master and mistress, even if you mean the greatest of respect by it, can sometimes be seen as disrespectful. So basically, saying sir and madam would work better. Now, of course, some people will take offense to that as well, but I think that's stupid because in most part of the world, That is a general way to address people you don't know well. It's a polite way to address people, so no more than that, so that should be fine. Now, another problem is where in the hierarchy do you place BDSMers when they come into our Gorean sphere? Now, some forums have said that if you're submissive, then you should count as a slave, and no, because there's such a great span of what a submissive is. For example, I know one couple where I would have definitely called the submissive in the party a slave. It's a TPE relationship. She is completely dedicated to him. She does whatever he says. There are no limits, and so on and so forth. But they don't like the term slave, so she refers to herself as submissive. I also know people who, for example, are into taken in hand, who are basically living as wife decades past. And such a person would be much more fitting to see as a free woman. Because really, that's also what a free woman is. A free woman is submissive to her free companion. Though she is not a slave, she has her say in the relationship. She can leave the relationship at any time she decides, as soon as basically that year is up, unless she renews it. A free woman has a lot of freedom. She is free, but still she is generally submissive. So I say that generally you have to look at people. For, like I said, BDSM is a huge spectrum, and some people who refer to themselves as submissive are generally definitely somebody I would see as slave, while others definitely are more people I would say would fit in the same category as a free woman. So I would say that as a general rule, place submissives in the category of a free woman. While if they have a very slave-like nature, treat them as slaves. And this is also how I refer to myself on BDSM forums. As a Gorean free woman, I refer to myself as submissive. So, yeah, eh, I think those are the most common issues that Goreans have when dealing with people who are BDSMers. How to place people in their hierarchy. Because the problem is that when we have a small subculture of our own, when people come into there that have some similarities to us but are not the same, there will be problems. However, I think that if you follow those advice that I've given out, it will provide less trouble. And of course, you can't be like the one poster I tried to explain this to, who said, "Oh no, he didn't care what BDSM thought of him, so basically, he could go to hell." I'm like, yeah, fine, fine. However, you've also been complaining about how Goreans get an unfair bad reputation. You have to choose. Do you want to be open to outsiders so that they can say that we are not two-headed monsters that eat children? Or do you want to say, no, no, we don't fucking care. If people want to talk with us, they'll do it completely on our terms. Of course, he then said, but I'm a Gorean, I do as I please. Yeah. Obviously, doing as you please includes closing your eyes to reality. Good luck with that. However, I would like to see the Gorean lifestyle get a bit better reputation, so I say that we should welcome people that are curious, and a lot of the people that are curious are BDSMers. Another problem that I do see that a treatment that a lot of BDSMers get is that read the books, and here's the problem. There are 32 of these books. It'll take a lot of both time and money to read all of them. No, yes, I do agree. If people are generally and um, if they show a quite bit of interest, then recommending them reading the book is a good idea. However, if all they do is sort of want to know a little bit about what we're about, you're saying, read the books, it doesn't work. Generally, just give them a short description of what the lifestyle is about and lead them in directions of, for example, Gorean Voice and other websites where they can learn some more. It's the same as if somebody came to me and said, "What is Wicca?" And I said, "No, read such and such book, and then you'll know it." That doesn't spread any information about such things, because most people will then think arrogant jerks and just go on with their misconceptions. However, just taking the teeniest bit of time, direct them to where they can find information cheaply and easily, helps people learn, and then perhaps they'll come back and be interested in the books later. So yeah, to sum this up, yes, a general thing, keep in mind, BDSM is a umbrella term. You cannot say BDSM is this because it's so wide. The Gorean slavery concept is a total power exchange concept. It is not alone in this concept. A lot of BDSMers have it. Get off your high horse. 3. Generally treat submissives as if they were free, because generally they are. However, some submissives have a more slavely tendencies, and then of course you can treat them as slaves. 4. When BDSM when BDSMers come into Gorean chat rooms and avenues, don't require submissives to call you master or mistress, because a lot of people feel that as far too intimate because they don't follow the concept that it's a universal thing. Basically, for most BDSMers, they are slave to their master and nobody else. And doing so, like I said, would be like calling a random person honey bun. So be satisfied with something like sir and madam. So yeah, that's generally what I wanted to say. There's of course a lot to learn about BDSM, but follow these simple advice and you should be able to talk with people who are BDSMers and not Goreans pretty well. So yeah, have a great day and blessed be.